Okay, I'll read the introduction now. This is the first book I published since a great tragedy happened within my family. Perhaps someday I'll write a book about it. Since finishing this book, things have actually become better, possibly due to the Indian spice turmeric. If so, then the future book I'm thinking of writing will definitely be written. But life goes on, and for me, the struggle to expose Islam continues. Okay. Although this is a work of science fiction fantasy, it is inspired from my study of both the Koran and Hadith. Halfway through this book, the character Muhammad Abdullah Rahman sees no hope of escaping an excruciating death out on the Black Rock Desert, and knowing that he has nothing to lose, he ingests LSD. It's unlikely what he experiences matches a real-life LSD trip, but if you're familiar with Alice in Wonderland and the certain things Muhammad taught as revealed in the Hadith and Quran, I just felt compelled to write an Islamic version of the Lewis Carroll children's story, this time called Allah in Wonderland. But it's an Islamic take of Alice in Wonderland for grown-ups, so viewer discretion is advised. I know it will infuriate Muslims if they come upon it, but most of what is revealed in such a story is inspired totally from Islamic sources. I just took out from the Hadith and Quran, making a Muslim Alice in Wonderland salad, if you will. I'm sorry if I offended. I'm sorry if it offends. I'm sorry if it offends, but again, since I see Islam as such a threat to the free world, I felt it had to be said. To me, the sexual and irreverent nature of such an LSD story is far less a threat to the peace of the world than the Quran and Hadith taken seriously. Again, I felt I had to write it using Islamic energy to help pull it off in Lewis Carroll fashion. Okay, the first story I'm about to read is called Pork Ribs. Sandy Prince, who was now known in his mosque as Muhammad Abdullah Rahman, was driving up to Nevada's Black Rock Desert to test a bomb he made. A bomb he was planning on detonating with himself in his car while plowing it into a Reno casino. Mr. Rahman tried jihad of the pen in an effort to see if he could win Allah's favor by defending Islam on the internet that way, but when confronted with the fact that from the Hadith that Muhammad truly did infer embryos go through a 40-day blood clot phase, proving that Quran chapter 96 really meant blood clot, or the clot, instead of clean like substance, the way all Muslim scholars were trying to say it meant now. Well, Mr. Rahman discovered that the only comeback in his defense of Islam was to resort to personal attack and saying such things as, "You know nothing about Islam," or "If you only knew the original Arabic," or "If you only know the classical Arabic," or "You are alone," or "Get out of your mommy's basement, dude," or "Take your meds." When an infidel asked the question, quote, "If the Bible is not the book that makes people the book, then what are the before scriptures you, as a Muslim, are to come to me for my reading of them, like Quran 1094 commands you to do if you're in doubt about the clear signs Quran?" All Mr. Rahman could respond back with was, "I don't know. I just know that the Bible is not the before scriptures because the Bible is corrupted." Such a lack of powerful answer to such a question tormented Mr. Rahman no end. He found himself responding more and more to the notion of the sun truly setting in a muddy spring by admitting that he believed there truly was a time the sun actually did set in a muddy spring, and that stars really were in the Earth's atmosphere to be used as missiles on Satan and his jinn if Satan and jinn tried to spy on Allah up in heaven. But Allah probably said B, and now the universe was far bigger and more grand than it was in the time of Alexander the Great. The man the Quran says walked so far west and so far east, that he found the place where the sun rises and sets. Mr. Rahman more and more found himself confessing that when Allah wrote the Koran, Allah later changed the reality of the universe, making it only appear that the Quran was written by a very backward-thinking caveman. Due to such a confession on Mr. Rahman's part, he started seeing the internet abbreviations of LOL and equivalents of it appearing on his computer screen for the 10,000th time. It all became just too much for Mr. Rahman. So the pen of jihad was dropped. So the pen of jihad was dropped to be substituted by the sword. It was now time to display once again what Islam was becoming famous for. It was to display once again what Islam was becoming famous for. A Muslim fulfilling Quran 9, 111, by killing and being killed in the cause of Allah. A car hooked up with bombs and going off in a crowded casino on a Saturday night seemed perfect for Mr. Rahman. Thus he continued on the Black Rock Desert for his Muslim lone wolf bomb testing. In order to not catch the attention of authorities, he had his neighbor's Springer Spaniel dog with him in a passenger seat. It pulled over, he had used his taqiyya, line for Allah, to tell the officer that it was his sister's dog. A feeling of unease entered Mr. Rahman when he wondered if infidels actually had some kind of Megan's Law alert for their dogs. The thought that they might send a feeling of unease into him. There would be no way he could detonate the bomb with a dog by his side, for he was told that if to die with a dog meant to not make paradise, and instead end up in the fire. I'll bring it back. The kuffar neighbors next to me will think the dog just got lost, and they will reward me handsomely when I say I found it. For kuffar are blind, not wise, he said to himself with a yellow-toothed grin. Dogs were almost as filthy as pigs in Islam, but not nearly the worst of creatures as non-Muslims. Kuffars, like Koran 98:6 had told him and all other Muslims who were truthful with such a scripture. The dog, not knowing the driving neighbor abhorred him, seemed to be smiling as it stuck its head out at the window and had the wind quickly bringing him the odors of sagebrush and other Nevada fauna to pass by his snout. Knowing that a dog wouldn't be the only cover to not make him look so jihadi and fundamentalist, Mr. Rahman pulled over into a 7-Eleven in Sparks, Nevada, to shave the beard. There was no mirror, so he waited to catch his reflection in his SUV mirror. He was terrified to admit it, but he looked a lot better without the bushy beard, for it was quite white in color now. But even though he was in his 40s, the stress of work and prayer on a prayer rug 5 times a day was beginning to weigh heavily on him. The fact that he'd have to get up at 4 in the morning and head to his mosque to not make others suspicious that he may be out of Islam was quickly taking its toll on him due to a lack of good sleep, making him look like he was a healthy 60-year-old. He had only been a Muslim for 10 years. "Why can't I collect a welfare check like all my other brothers in belief?" he said to the dog by his side. "They don't work, and they think I'm selling out by working for such an evil system as America, the country that supports Israel." The dog looked at him For the first time, for it was the first time he said something since the kidnapping. You know, I better stop it here. Yeah, I better.